Good morning, everyone. Joey with JLF Ranches and Outdoors here. So this morning I'm working on a Takeuchi TL230 Series 2 skid steer. Complaint, no start. We've got it troubleshot down to the starter. It's just clicking. To access this starter is a little bit of a pain. Way I do it, you got to pull the body belly pan under the engine to get to the bottom bolt the easiest, and then the top wise there's a bracket. After you raise the cap, there's a bracket that holds up the rear side of the exhaust. Pull that bracket out of the way and it'll give you plenty of room to reach in there with a wrench, take cables off and whatnot. But before you always take a starter off, make sure you disconnect the battery cables. Otherwise you could be in for a surprise, especially if you use brake clean and get a spark. You might start a fire. We're gonna start troubleshooting. I've already got a meter over here and whatnot. Starter is down there where the light is. That's the solenoid side of it. I took off the exciter wire and put a meter to it and go from there. As you can see, we got a meter hooked up to the exciter wire in the ground. And we got 11.8 coming to it. Now the funny thing is, if I take a jumper wire from said exciter wire where it hooks up to the starter, and I jump it from starter power off the battery to that exciter wire, it cranks over, runs, and will run just fine. So my guess is there is an issue somewhere between the harness, as the meter is just showing voltage. It's not showing amperage. It's not putting a draw on the system to give an issue. So my guess is there's a bad wire somewhere. We're gonna look up a schematic for this thing and try to figure out where the wiring runs and go from there. So if I've never stated it before, I really hate electrical issues because they have a mind of their own. I went ahead and ran a new wire from the starter relay all the way down to the starter solenoid and got the same results. Key on, try to start it so it clicks the stop solenoid, and then try to jump it from power to the S terminal on the starter. It will start, but the next time it may just act like it's shorted out. So we're gonna go ahead and pull the starter. Like I said, this starter part of it you gotta get from the bottom, the other part you gotta get from the top behind the seat. It's the best way I found to access to it. So anyways, right there where that hole is, that is where the bottom bolt is. A nut right there. Already removed it. You got your cable, your battery power cable, and your exciter wire. Pull those off. Pull that line off. Snake the starter out right here. But yeah, not as much of a pain as you would think just by looking at it. Once you remove the bracket that holds the rear of this exhaust on and whatnot, it actually opens up quite a bit of room. If you could access the rest of this, you could probably just take that whole filter housing out, make it easier. And I don't feel like trying to reach down to take the line off because it goes way over there, and on the other side you got the fan and stuff in the way. So I'll just take the line off here, move it out of my way, and that starter will come right out. Tooling you'll need, it's pretty basic. Outside of the bottom bolt on the starter, you'll need either long skinny hands and arms to get up to it, or 14mm wobble socket. 9/16 will probably work. Top bolt's a 14 millimeter nut. 13 millimeter on the starter, at least on this specific starter, is 13 millimeter for the main power cable, and just a blade connector for the exciter wire. The lower belly pan was all 16 millimeter, unless somebody put an aftermarket metric bolt in. I had one on here, it ended up being a 17. For the rear mount for the exhaust, it's 13 millimeter and 18 millimeter, and a 8 millimeter Allen wrench or 5/16 Allen wrench. But that'll be all the tooling you need to remove this. Here's out. It is a 2-bolt mounting starter, as well as only a 2-wire starter. There she is. That's the numbers that were on this starter.